Comprehensive Agreement on Bangsamoro is a final peace agreement signed between the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front on March 27, 2014 at the Malacañang Palace in Manila. Under the agreement, the Islamic separatists would turn over their firearms to a third party, which would be selected by the rebels and the Philippine government. The MILF agreed to decommission its armed wing, the Bangsamoro Islamic Armed Forces. In return, the government would establish an autonomous Bangsamoro. Power sharing was a central point to autonomy redesign.
So for its background is that in a pursuit of their goal of the liberating Bangsamoro, the MNLF engaged the government forces in extensive armed collision. So in peaking in the early 70s, when the rebel blitzed its operations brought them of the control of substantial number of municipalities surrounding the Cotabato city and its airport complex. This prompted that the Marcos regime to beef up the military presence by deploying almost 3/4 on the army, so in the most Muslim parts of Mindanao. So things took a different turn in 1976 when Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi broke an agreement. So that led to signing the Tripoli Agreement. So it introduced the concept of an autonomous Muslim region in Mindanao on August 1, 1989, under the mandate of the new 1987 Constitution. Congress enacted Republic Act 6734. So it authorized the creation of the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARM. So however, out of the 13 provinces and 9 cities that participated in the plebiscite, only the provinces of Lanao del Sur, Maguindanao, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi opted to become part of the ARM, and the ARM was formally established on November 6, 1990.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Abdullah Siti Aina. I'm the one of the Group 3 group. So I'm going to discuss about the background. First is Hashim Salaman. Officers led to instead of bringing the Muslim leaders together, this agreement further permitted the MILF because some factors within the group preferred independence where autonomy. Second, Moro Islamic Liberation Front (MILF) is to continue their armed struggle for an independent Bangsamoro and Mindanao. Through the combined strength of these two rebels forces has not reached a point of forcing any real threat to the government and Manila. The most remarkable effort to bring closure to this movement was that of the Ramos administration, which tried to reach out to both the communities and Muslim rebels through peaceful means, efforts to reach peace with Islamist separatists.
Assalamualaikum and good day. I am Raifa Guro and I'm going to discuss to you how such agreement was reached or settled, or how the people who may concern negotiate or made a deal about such agreement. The government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or known as MILF, have conducted an on and off peace negotiations or peace talks since 1997. After 2009, the negotiations were also supported by the International Contact Troops, or also known as ICG, which is the one who attends and observes negotiations in Kuala Lumpur and is mandated to maintain trust between the parties and ensure the implementation of mutually agreed approaches. The ICG represented an innovation in peace process support in that it was a hybrid body composed of both states and international non-governmental organizations, or also known as INGOs. These protracted negotiations have allowed an innovative and increasingly complex peace support architecture to develop with the help of the other members, such as the Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, and Japan, also the Asia Foundation, the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, Muhammadiyah, and also the Conciliation Resources, which is part of the International Contact Group, which provides support to the peace talks, and that it was the first of its kind where the INGOs and diplomats work together in a formal and permanent setting.
I am Rafi Gomez, and today I'll be the one to discuss about this part of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. So remember that the previous reporter discussed about the peace talks or negotiations, which is supported by the ICG, and that the ICG has a body that is composed of both states and INGOs, and that one of the INGOs is the Asia Foundation. So the Asia Foundation is a non-profit international development organization that is committed to improving lives across a dynamic and developing Asia. So when the Asia Foundation became a third-party monitoring team in 2012, the Committee of San Egidio replaced the Asia Foundation in the ICG. So the Committee of San Egidio is a lay Catholic association that is under the leadership of Andrea Riccardi. So its activities include an evening prayer that lends assistance to a whole spectrum of needy persons, including the victims of war and prisoners. So remember, here in Philippines, the victims of war and the prisoners are the MILF, or the Moros. So why am I telling you this? So I am telling you this because the Committee of San Egidio, as part of the ICG, played a major role of the peace talks or the negotiations between the Philippine government and the MILF after 2009. So on January 24, 2014, the Philippine government chief negotiator Miriam Cornel Ferrer and MILF chief negotiator Mokber Iqbal signed a peace agreement in Kuala Lumpur. So the agreement would pave the way for the creation of the new Muslim autonomous entity called Bangsamoro under a law to be approved by the Philippine Congress. So the Philippine government aims to set up the region by 2016.
Philippine Government Chief Negotiator Miriam Colonel Ferrer shakes hands with the MILF Chief Negotiator Muhakgir Iqbal at talks in Kuala Lumpur. They made an agreement that calls for Muslim self-rule in parts of the southern Philippines in exchange for a deactivation of rebel forces by the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF. So under the agreement, the guerrillas would turn over their firearms to a third party, which would be selected by the rebels and the Philippine government. So in return, a regional police force would be established in the new Muslim Autonomous Area. It would be created in 2016. At the same time, the Philippine military would reduce the presence of troops and help disband private armies in the area. It was the last 4 annexes agreed by the rebel group and the Philippine government since the two parties signed a preliminary peace plan in October 2012. So the two sides previously signed agreements on transition method, wealth sharing, and power sharing. The comprehensive agreement would pave the way for the creation of the new Muslim autonomous entity called Bangsamoro under a law to be approved by Congress. So the government aims to set up the region by 2016. The new entity will have substantive control over natural resources and wealth and revenues generated in the southern region of Mindanao. In addition, with the signing of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro Thursday, the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, is abandoning its armed struggle for an independent Muslim state in Mindanao. So the establishment of the Bangsamoro, which has an asymmetrical relationship with the central government, is deemed the remedy for a defective autonomy. For the MILF and its supporters, this is the crowning glory of their 4-decade struggling. So that would be all. Thank you very much.